What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. I'm super excited, as always, bringing you another great guest. He's joining us from California, Southern California. Yeah, baby. He is the founder of Alpha Influence Media. He's also the founder and host of Winner's Paradigm podcast, and he has recently become a keynote speaker. Please welcome Alundus Havens to the show. Alundus.
Yeah, thank you for letting me come
on. Well, we've already got to know you each other a little bit because you had me as a guest on your show, which was awesome. I had a great conversation with you. So I know a little bit about your story, but my audience does not. So we got to hit the reset button and you got to drop some knowledge on us and what brought you to where you are today, because, it is a great story.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to give the summarized version. If not, it's going to take 10 minutes of our time. But a little about me. I'm from Fresno, California originally. So center of California, not really much going on there. Parents separate 3-4 years old. And they were young, 21, 19, so they're partying and bringing people in and out. So when I'm younger, I didn't have, I wasn't able to build relationships with people. And I was like, there's something wrong with me. I can't figure this out, and it was just, I seen people come in and out. I couldn't really build those relationships, as well as both my parents were, my dad's abusive and narcissistic, my mom abusive a little bit, and they're drinkers as well. So it was something where it was like, when you say something, for instance, and then they rephrase it and it's you're the problem in this, and they never take accountability. So I grew up with those limiting beliefs, also had a racist stepdad in the mix. So I had a lot of identity issues, and then got into it, where I was the one questioning everything, just really pissing them off because I didn't want to just live with the status quo and agree with what I didn't believe in, or, certain things that they said, all the way to where, I got to the military and I started being, successful. I had a traumatic event on boot leave that kind of really got me back in those bad negative patterns. And I'm thinking crazy, and it's like, I want revenge and I want you to feel pain. And then it really went into, me started drinking a gallon of whiskey at one point in time, and I'm ruining my marriage, and it was like, that was when we first got together. So we weren't married yet, but we had a miscarriage, and that's what really did it for me, to where I was like, man, I got to change this. I got to start breaking these generational curses. So that's also the other problem, is I get little bits and pieces from family, but I can never ask direct questions because, again, people get defensive, they get upset, and then their feelings are hurt. So in this case, it was piecing it together. Luckily, a week before my daughter was born, I started a podcast, The Winner's Paradigm, where I really said, hey, I'm going to make it a focal point to recalibrate your mindset, go back, relive those traumas and process it now. So that's my goal now, is, talking to entrepreneurs. And yeah, we can talk about the business side all day, but we need to talk about the things that shaped us into what made us us, and kind of, that journey of it. In my case, using podcasting, getting aligned to the right people, starting a business with my mentor, Zach Babcock, which I never thought was going to happen. And then even, recently just went to his event last week and became a keynote speaker for the first time. So that was a little bit crazy, where it was like, I shared my story and then people were coming up, hey, brother, I really want to say that resonates with me. I really love the work you're doing. Hey, keep on keeping on. I'd love to interview you. And it was like, wow, initially I didn't want to get up in front of 80 people.
Yeah, well, that would be a little scary. I think I'd be a little intimidated too. But there is something inside me that's drawing me to wanting to do that. I just have not I just haven't taken that plunge yet.
You've done a lot.
Yes, I have. And I'm sure I would be just fine. But there's something about, when I was younger, I was incredibly shy, almost painfully shy. And I actually forced myself in high school to take speech class because I wanted to be able to break out of that shyness. And I remember, and being a bodybuilder, getting up on stage, just trying to do things that would get me out of my comfort zone and help me grow so that I wouldn't be like that anymore. But I digress. So I love the name, The Winner's Paradigm. I love it. I think that it says a lot. It's very we're label free here, but I think that's a label that we all want to have, as being a winner, right? So what brought you to that title of your show?
Good question. So I really just looked at life, and in my case, and that's why I love, label free, is in my case, there was labels on me. It was, I'm the crazy one, I'm alcoholic. And it was like, when I stopped drinking, people were like, you're boring, you're square, you don't want to do anything. Yeah, because I'm not doing that. I'm not going to waste this time where I'm just pounding, liquor, and I'm the coolest one, and thinking that that's the way to go when it's not, So in my case, when I was thinking about the Winner's Paradigm, it was like, hey, what does every single entrepreneur or professional athlete do? They find ways to win. They really do that. And the only way that you can get to a point in life where you're measuring and all aspects of life and your relationships are good and you're the person you are, you're the parent, you're the everything you need to be, ideally, is you got to figure out, hey, how do we get through this? So that's kind of where the winner portion came, was I was figuring out, hey, how do we stack these wins? How do we teach people that it doesn't matter where you come from? Because even if you came from the good household, I had friends like that, that didn't resonate with my message and some things I say, but when they had some other things, they're like, hey man, how do I get through this? And I'm like, oh, I can do this easy, and we're all on different wavelengths, but we have to come together, we figure out, and regardless, any high achiever, they're having to get through those things. But more importantly, they're having to heal that trauma, because if not, then you're going to have money and then you got more issues. It's just going to pack on to more things. And in my case, it was like, went in the military, became my own boss in 1920. And then I started reliving all these things. And it was just like, well, what's going on with me? Probably because I didn't heal it. I didn't stop the trauma prior to. So now it's coming out in marriage. And now my wife's like, what's wrong with you? This is a different person. I'm like, oh, no, it's not. It's just all these things that shape me.
Wow, I'm tearing up a little bit. I think that, I too, when I was on your show, I shared a little bit about my past, and I'm not going to get into it because this is about you. But I feel like as individuals that have gone through some kind of trauma, that really want to create a better life for ourselves, right? And not get stuck in that cycle, that vicious cycle, that those struggles and those things, those traumatic experience really created incredible character inside of us. And if we are driven, it allows us, sometimes we might have a setback, but that's not going to define us moving forward. And I think that that's why you are where you are today. I mean, you've got incredible energy, just like your smile lights up the screen, and just like the way you talk about it is just like, it's just part of something that you had to go through. And that's what separates you, like, from the men from the boys, right? It's like, I'm not going to sit here and wallow in my shit, like, woe is me, woe is me. This is something I went through. This created some incredible resilience in me, created wisdom, because it does. When you go through those traumatic things, like with family, alcoholism, and all these different things, it's like, I think it puts you in a different echelon of people with your experience with life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, 100% agree. And I'd say that's too, sometimes we come as, and I had this happen to me the other day where they're like, oh, you're just overly confident, or you're overly, and I'm like, nah, I'm just zoned in and I'm all in on what I'm doing. And I got the crew around me and I'm like, I don't have time to doubt myself anymore, because I know what my strengths are. And in our case, we've been there, we've done that, we processed that. So it's like, now it's our job to share that and to be able to go to the next thing. So it's like, when I have those conversations and it feels like that, and someone's like, you're a little intimidating. No, it's just, I've put the work in and I've done it. So that's why I'm making it a focal point to help people, is because it's like, I've done that. I've went through the motions, and I am young, but it's one of those where it's like, I'm not going to keep living this. Because in my case, it was that generational curse where it's like, I started a lot younger on that generational curse side, but it was harder to break it. And then now, even, doing it, it's just like, I'm not going to preach one thing and do another. So that's where I built my core values and I made them in an action plan that I take every single day. So it's one reminder to me, is like, hey, this is how you have to do it in order to be able to speak it.
Yeah. I think people that say those kind of things to you, or to, like, I've heard that too. I haven't recently, because I think that as you go, your circle of friends change, that they're more like equal with you. But someone that says that to you is someone that's probably dealing with some stuff of their own and haven't dealt with it yet. And so that they're intimidated by that, because it forces them to actually have to take a look at themselves, like, wow, they're so confident and they've gone through all this. Why am I like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what that conversation was like. And that's why I had it, was trying to help somebody out. But they said it and I start laughing, because old me would have been like, am I really that way? Because again, I grew up with narcissism. So it was one of those, like, I doubted myself so much, because they would twist it. They would make things my fault. They didn't take accountability. And it was one of those. So it was like, it was good because I caught it. And it was like, no, he's just in his process. He's learning and he's going to get there. And like, I didn't take it to heart, but old me would have been like, oh, he's the enemy for saying something like that. In this case, it was like realizing what context it was. And it wasn't from the narcissism that I used to like flip out about. It was more from a place where he's like, he's going through it. He's trying to find his way. And that's the reason why he questioned something like that.
We're like, we're like on the same page. Yeah. Because
exactly.
I would get pissed off too. Like, what do you mean I'm too confident? What are you talking about? Like, get out of my.
I got that, where someone's like, why are you starting a business? And I was like, why the fuck would I not want to start a business?
Right.
And I was like, so I want to work for somebody for the rest of my life. And they just looked at me and they're like, oh, I'm like, no, I got friends that passed away and they ain't here no more. I got, family that's not here. And I was like, so I make it a focal point to be who I am, but to do what I want. Because again, in my case, like I'll just cap on it real quick. I quit my job to start my business with my partner because I had a nanny and she was taking care of the baby. And from there, it was $2,800 a month, and it would have spread us thin because I was capped out on salary. And it was one of those where it was like, all right, I'm paying $1,400. Nanny leaves. I tell the job, hey, here's my corrective action plan. This is how I'm going to be able to make calls more than 60 to 80 hours as is. So I didn't think it was a problem. They come at me, oh, is your heart still in it? So that's where I went back to my team and I'm like, hey guys, this is my fucking job, dude, and I want to quit. And I'm just irritated. And they're like, yeah, you're not a worker bee. Like, you're not one of those who just sit there and work around. We know you're a leader. We know you can be able to run a company. Let's start something together. We believe in you. And that was awesome for me because it was like taking that leap, but it was no longer, being in there. Plus that other job, they didn't care about your mental health. And they would say like mission, mission, mission. And then I work with my partner and he's like, mental health's number one priority, take care of yourself, then you take care of your family and everyone else. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? So it was like complete life change, just working on that, having my time to have my morning routine in the morning and get, myself going.
That's really great. I feel like these days that more companies do need to embrace the importance of mental health because there are so many people out there struggling with mental health more than, I think that we realize. I hear the crazy stories every day because my fiance, my future husband, is a police officer in Chicago, and the amount of mental, people he deals with, I don't want to say it, like mental health issues, people with mental health issues that he deals with is like mind-boggling to me. And I live in a bubble, right? I'm not surrounded by that every day. And it's just like, wow, there needs to be more focus around that because, what is it going to take for companies to realize that they need to care about their employees' mental health when is it going to take someone to snap and come in and blow up the whole place, because we're hearing more things of like that happening all over. And I think Absolutely. It's because of mental health. It's because of mental health. You just don't wake up one day and say, oh, hey, I'm going to go like shoot 10, 15 innocent people. There's something going on that's creating that trigger inside of you that says that you want to hurt other people because hurt people, right? Exactly. So it's something that we need to really be concerned and care about others and making sure that they're in a good mental health space.
Hey Dad, how you been? What's going on?
Well, not too much. Spring cleaning time.
Well, did you weed whack? Did you get the carpets cleaned? 'Cause I know Mom's all about that, so I want to make sure we're ready to go.
Well, yeah. I got the gutters cleaned. That's about it.
That's it? Well, when I said weed whack and all that and the carpet, I kind of meant like the Manscaped 4.0. It's a little more personal.
I understand, yeah.
Works awesome.
Have you tried this?
I have tried it and it works wonders. It really does, yeah.
Okay, this is pretty cool. And see, it comes with an LED light. And I understand it's waterproof.
It is waterproof. It works well. I tried it, it's a good product. It's a great product. I've tried other ones and they're just so noisy and they don't cut very well.
Wow, that's really good, Mike. Where do we get this?
Well, you can get it at manscaped.com. And while you're at manscaped.com, you know that we got a code so we get it cheaper.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of a discount can we get?
We can get it at label-free 20, and it gives you 20% off the product, and it gives us free shipping. And I've tried some of the other products there because they got these all new premier products. Like this here, it's a deodorant.
Now, is it for underarm or other places or?
I tried, but it's for the underarm.
Okay.
That's where it's at. And you can also get it at manscaped.com. Same code. We're using the code again. Label free 20. Label free 20%
off and free shipping.
Free shipping. I mean, how can you go wrong with that, right?
Wonderful.
I went on a little rant there. Sorry.
No, 100% agree. What's funny is it's a veteran-based company too, but they're so high and strung up on mission and sales and closing and numbers being here. But it was one of those where it's like, all right, so this is the bonus, but if I don't make the bonus, I'm going to get fired. And that was kind of how they would treat it. So it was one of those where I was literally fighting with the command there. And I'm like, nope, this isn't what we're going to do. You're going to give us a floor of what we have to do because people aren't making it because they're going on vacation or they're sick and now their job's at stake and now they're stressing even more. And we're adding that on the workload because at the time we didn't have the lead flow. So it's one of those, it's like, that's your guys' problem as an employer. You shouldn't have hired more people if you can't distribute the leads. And they were like, got the leads going. But it was one of those for me. I was like, hey, this isn't for me anymore. And I need to be able to be who I need to be for my family. I need to be there, be present. So I'm not doing this job anymore.
Yeah, no, I can't. So I've come to the realization I'm unemployable because I am a natural leader. I am an oldest of 5. I just have that natural ability inside of me. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was like 8 years old. And, I worked for my grandparents who had entrepreneur. My dad had my dad had his own business. My grandparents had their own business. And when I was 13, I started my own babysitting company. And it's like, I've come to a place where I've tried to be in the corporate world. I was successful. I worked in an environment like that, after my late husband passed away.
Right.
And,
I remember you talking about it.
Yeah. And it was like, I did really well, but I also bumped heads with, leadership quite a bit. And you know what? I'm very proud of this. My girlfriend, she's my best friend still to this day. We had gotten really tight there and she was sick for like a month in the hospital. And I ended up covering her accounts and she made her quota because I did that for her. I was working like double just to make sure
awesome.
because of that, because if you don't meet your quota, you're going to get fired or reprimanded. And I felt like that, as a team, we should take care of her so that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Because she was sick.
Exactly.
What are you going to do?
And that's exactly what happened. Well, they have this event in Austin and then everybody gets COVID and then they're like running around the problem. And I'm like, no, you guys had this as an employer, take it responsibility. Right, and they were just like, oh, and I'm like, I'm out. Well, I had the flu before that for a week. I missed 2 weeks because I was just out 1 week and then I couldn't talk the next week. And then came back from that, had COVID really bad. Everybody got it. And they were like going around it. And I was like, I get this is political and they didn't want to touch it. But at the same time, it's like, it's not political, it's life and people are sick. So the job's not getting done. So it's not, I don't care about your politics. Let's focus on the job at hand and people being sick. And now we have a problem at, why things can't get done. And they kind of just went around that. And that's where I was just like, yeah, that's not where I feel comfortable being here anymore. Luckily now,
alignment with your beliefs and your
exactly.
values.
Yeah. So capping on the alignment, being around the right people, right time has definitely changed for my life.
So what advice would you give someone that might be in a similar position like you and I've been in, where they're struggling with, not feeling fulfilled, it's going against their values and their beliefs, and they are not sure what they want to do, but they know that that doesn't align with where they want to be in life. What advice would you give them?
So I'm going to cap off a little bit of what you just said. You just mentioned values. So yeah, core values is huge. And I'm going to share mine with you because like I said, I make it an actionable step so people can understand how I kind of use my process. And you want to make sure that your core values, again, we're talking about alignment, are, in tune with yourself and what you're looking to do in life. So if you're working something, you're selling a product or something and you don't believe in it, well, then obviously you don't need to be there. So in our case, we went through that corporate, we thrived there, but it was like, yeah, bumping heads, this isn't for us, and we already have that vision. We're visionaries, want to be able to move to the next thing. So what I did is when I refined mine, for instance, I said true to self, I got to look at myself in the mirror and be okay with it, So that means looking in there and being like, hey, you gained some weight, or hey, this, or today you look really tired. Why don't you get sleep? And I'm being real with myself. Then I go to self-reflection, and it's the meditation / journaling portion, because I need to be able to get these things out from inside me onto paper constructively so I can understand, hey, what is the problem? What do we need to solve? Why am I getting so angry? Because I know that's another thing, with us as entrepreneurs, we thrive in chaos, but when it's calm, we can't be calm. So that's one of them for me, is looking there. And then the next two is transparency, accountability, because I want to be able to have these conversations like we are, let you know from that vulnerable standpoint and hold myself to that standard. Because I'm not going to be, preaching something and then you're like, I see you out here doing something completely else. No, that's not what I want to do. And if I do that, that's where that accountability portion comes in. Hey, this is the reason why this happened, or, this is the way we'll fix it. And then I leave the last one for learning and application. Because really, we can learn everything, we can read all the books in the world, but if we're not taking one thing at least and implementing that in our life, if we're not taking one thing from what we're learning or one thing from our conversation, then we just wasted, hours of our life. So that's one of the things I make a point. Like last time we talked and you're being resilient and you're telling me about your story and everything you went through. And I'm like, man, if you can make it happen and you still have that drive to keep going, and no matter what it was, nothing was stopping you. I'm the same way. So it was one thing that resonated with me, even coming on your show, where I was like, yeah, we're going to have an awesome conversation and we're both going to be able to gain more off of it.
Amen. Woo! Yeah, my brother, we need to clip that and like post it all over the place. That was amazing. How important do you think it is? So someone that is wanting to become an entrepreneur and break out of like the societal expectations of working that corporate job, how important it is to take healthy risks to get you to a point where you can actually make that happen.
I love that. And again, this is why I like you a lot, is we align together. And I say that all the time, calculated risk, and trying to look at it and saying, hey, what's the best thing? Yeah, it's not always going to be the best scenario, but you really got to look at it, and sometimes you're not going to have a financial means. So like for me, I had a little bit, but I needed to be able to do it. So I'm not going to lie. I put things on my credit card to make it out to St. Louis because I was like, I got to do it. I'll pay this off later. Good thing I have a couple thousand limit still on there. So I got a little bit of wiggle room. And it was like, I needed to do that to get in the room with the right people. And I say that for people that are on that edge and they're like, I don't know if I can make this business work. Just really do it. Like for instance, tomorrow, I'm going to go meet with one of my buddies. He just started a company and he's like, I have a lead problem. I'm like, bro, I don't know leads, but we're going to figure this out together. And it's just kind of figuring out, what's going to work for you. But when you're on that point and you're already having that doubt, it's because you're not supposed to be there. And it's something that you're feeling and you're like, well, this doesn't add. Well, if it doesn't add up to you and you don't feel fulfilled and you're not being the person you want to be, or the parent, the husband, wife, that's where you got to put that work in. So in my case, it was, hey, I'm going to do this so I can be here. It's going to suck, but you're going to figure it out. And if you want it bad enough, if you find the right people, then, that money problem, you're going to easily figure out regardless, and try to figure, what's going to get you to that next step.
Yeah, totally agree. So for me in my life, things that I've done to get me to where I've been is I've constantly taken small, like I said about the speech class, small things that take me out of my comfort zone, that build that self-confidence, that allow me to believe in myself. So I'll take a bigger risk and a bigger risk, and a bigger risk. And sometimes not every risk that we take is going to pay out, but you're going to survive. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. So we are been talking and talking and talking. Where can people find you, connect with you, learn more about AIM Influence Media and Winners Paradigm Podcast?
Absolutely. So the best way right now is the Winners Paradigm Podcast. You can just go to there, or thewinnersparadigm.com. That's where you're going to be able to subscribe, follow up with me. I'm going to talk about Alpha Influence Media, how to get a hold of me. So that's just the easiest way possible.
Oh, I said AIM is Alpha. Sorry, let me correct myself. Alpha.
Alpha. Well, AIM's the acronym, so it works out perfect.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, both, either way. So you guys, I'm going to put all those links in the show notes. You saw that right there. Don't hesitate to reach out. Go follow and listen or subscribe to Winners Paradigm Podcast, and go listen to all the great stuff that Alendis is dropping, because you're not going to be disappointed. So this is the part of the show where I always like to ask, you've dropped a lot of wisdom though. I mean, God has given you great gifts, and your star is just going to soar. And I can just see that you're just beginning. And I love that when I see it, when I talk to my guests, that I can see that in them, that they're just like, they're getting ready to take off. So I'm just excited to watch that trajectory for you. I can't talk. What are some last words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with the audience?
I would just say, do what you feel like you're passionate about. So at one point in time, I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. And I just really hated life. And it was just like, this isn't me. And I was young, so luckily none of those things happened. And I was able to work through it and slowly get through it. But now, like I said, giving that speech to 80 people, like that was something huge for me. But it was something where I'm like, man, I finally figured out what I'm good at. On the way to St. Louis, I'm talking to a girl and we're giving stories, and she's telling me about her and I'm telling her about myself. And it was like, man, I've never opened up to anyone like this before. And it was like, well, I finally found what I'm passionate about. And I used to beat myself up on, what I'm not good at. I'm not good with my hands. I can't work on cars. And it's like, but I can talk to people and really get to them on that personal level and say, hey, this is what I did in my case. This is what you can do, or here's some options, or just maybe even listen. So in my case, like, just keep going, even if you're not at that place you want to be, and just figure out, hey, what makes you passionate? What is one thing that really gives you life? And if you continue to pursue that and do that, it's going to change the game for you.
Amen. Amen, brother, because I feel I'm living proof of it. You're living proof of it. And you just have to believe and have faith and keep going. So I love that, those words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being an incredible, dynamic guest. I am so excited for you. And this is just the beginning. So thanks for dropping all that great stuff with us today.
Thank you again for letting me on. It was an honor to swap with you.
You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Please don't forget to follow, subscribe, comment, share, rate, review, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.